show is brought to you by Johnston Group, Vittorio Rossi, Trans-Canada Brewing, Lou Ferlin, Cambrian Credit Union, and Homefield.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, and I will be your captain to guide you through this rough patch of turbulence we seem to be hitting right now. I'm going to start this off and get into it right away before Ken Weave from Sportsnet makes it here. Together, we are Kenny and Renny. You know how it goes. I wanted to launch into the whole captain and the turbulence thing, though, because we're seeing the panic is setting in. I mean, it's being said. Look at this. Russ Peters has 4 points back with 2 games in hand. Clock is ticking. Sirens are wailing. It's panic time, Sean. Crying faces, wailing faces. Sorry, Nashville can definitely catch us. All right. I'm going to tell you all right now why I think right off the bat, why look at me. Do I look like I'm worried? Do I look like I'm worried at all about what's going to happen here? It's because I'm not. And the reason I'm not, and this is going to get really simple here for a second. Right now, the Calgary Flames are up 3-2 on the Vegas Golden Knights in the third period. To me, that is a more existential threat to the Winnipeg Jets than the Nashville Predators. And it's pretty simple why. I'm going to tell you, there's 13 games left remaining for the Winnipeg Jets. There'll be 13 games left remaining for the Calgary Flames after this game. If they manage to hold on, they're 3 points back at the Winnipeg Jets with 13 games left. Here's the deal. Down the stretch, the Calgary Flames, the Winnipeg Jets, of their remaining 13 games, 8 of those teams will be against teams below the playoff line. Now, I know that everyone's taking a look at the Nashville Predators and what they've done as of late, and they're panicking. And on the surface, it looks like there should be a panic happening in this situation. I'm here to tell you why you shouldn't. Now, the thing that makes it look like you should be panicking is that in the last 10 games, the Nashville Predators have closed 5 points on the Winnipeg Jets. They at one time were down back 9 points. That seems insurmountable, except now they're only 4 points back. And people are thinking, well, if they closed 5 points in 10 games, it's not inconceivable for them to close 4 points in the next 10 games. And then all of a sudden you've got the Winnipeg Jets and they're tied going down to the wire here. This is why I don't think that's going to happen. So like I said, the Winnipeg Jets, Calgary Flames, 13 games each. They've got 8 games against teams below the playoff line down the stretch here. It's a beneficial schedule. Now, let's be honest with the Winnipeg Jets. They've been faltering for a long time, and a huge chunk of those games came against teams below the playoff line. So that doesn't necessarily mean a lot, but it does mean that if it comes to strength of schedule or weakness of schedule, the Winnipeg Jets are putting themselves in a decent spot here. The Nashville Predators have 16 games left. 16 games. So it sounds like, wow, they've got that much more to deal with. But in their last 10 games, 8 of those 10 games came against teams below the playoff line. 12 of, that's their previous 10 games. Their previous 2 games before that also came against teams below the playoff line. The Nashville Predators have been showing strength, and people are saying, wow, look at all the games that this team is winning, except for the fact that they've been winning those games against teams that are bad teams below them in the playoff line. Now they've got 16 games left. Guess how many of those 16 games are against teams below the playoff line? It's 3. 3 games. The Nashville Predators have a murderer's row of a schedule to close out the season here. It's not an easy situation here. You know what I've been talking about. I think at some point the Nashville Predators are going to wake up and they're going to be like, we're in a little bit of a tough spot here. I think that moment may have just happened tonight. And here's why. They play a Chicago Blackhawks team. One of the very few games they have left against a team below the playoff line. And they blow that before they go play the Winnipeg Jets. This situation went from being almost all the pressure on the Winnipeg Jets on Saturday to, I think, quite honestly, far more of the pressure now being in the Nashville Predators court on Saturday And this is the reason why the Nashville Predators, if they would have pulled off a win here tonight as the Jets lost to the Boston Bruins, Nashville Predators would have been just 2 points back at the Winnipeg Jets with 3 games in hand. If you're the Winnipeg Jets and you're heading into a game in a situation like that, and you're thinking to yourself, if we lose this game, we are at even with this team, and they've got 3 games in hand, that you're in the hole at that stage. You're 2 points in the hole, 3 points in the hole, maybe even 4 points in the hole. If that team plays out of its mind, you're 6 points in the hole. That's almost impossible to come back from with 12 games left in the season. Now, all of a sudden, it's 4 points. And here's why it's a big deal. Because even if the Winnipeg Jets lose on Saturday, they still have a 2-point cushion. And yes, there's 3 points. There's 3 games in hand that Nashville has, but they still have to look forward to this murderer's row of a schedule that's ahead of them. Worst case scenario, the Jets still come out of that game 2 points up. They play later on in the season, but again, the Jets' schedule is not the Nashville Predators' schedule. But if the Winnipeg Jets win on Saturday, the Nashville Predators are now 6 points back of them in the standings with a murderer's row of a schedule going ahead of them. I contend, if you take a look at this lineup the Nashville Predators they have been getting by off hard work and effort, and good on them for doing that, and good goaltending. But this is a team that does not have the skill to compete with the upper echelon teams in the NHL, and that's who they play down the stretch here. The Calgary Flames are the bigger threat. If they do win here tonight, there's back to being a little bit more of a threat, but I've seen too much of the Calgary Flames collapsing down the stretch here. I know what everyone is saying. The Winnipeg Jets aren't playing their best hockey. My reason for having no worries about the Winnipeg Jets not making the playoffs has very little to do with how they've played or how I think they're going to turn things around. It has everything to do with the fact that I do not have any faith in any of the teams chasing the Winnipeg Jets. That's where I stand on that. The Winnipeg Jets are in the playoffs right now solely by the grace of there being a lack of competition for a playoff spot. That's why they sit where they are. And it's why they're able to, even in a time where we're looking and thinking the Winnipeg Jets are turning things around. I mean, I know there was a lot of people in the chat room. There were some people a couple games ago who were saying, that's it. This team's back. Look at them go, baby. Now they've lost 2 straight. And all of a sudden the Winnipeg Jets, who, started looking like things were going to be really great 4 games ago, are now a 500 hockey club in their last 4 games. And if you go back 6 games, they're a sub 500 hockey club. So the momentum that they look like they're building is very middle of the road momentum. I just think that the teams that are chasing them are below middle of the road, and the Winnipeg Jets I'm seeing enough from them, and we'll get into that. We'll bring in Kenny and we'll talk about what we saw from the game here tonight. I'm seeing enough from them to expect above middle of the road performance from them. I think middle of the road is as good as it gets for the Calgary Flames and for the Nashville Predators down the stretch. That's why I'm not worried. That's why I don't think you should worry, but I'm not going to tell you what to do. If you want to panic, if you want to get out the pots and pans and start hitting them with the spoons, I'm not going to stop you from doing that. I just don't think you should do that to yourself. Hey, let's have a little bit of confidence. Let's kind of take a deep breath and look forward to some playoff hockey in the fall. That's my take on it. I wonder what Ken's take is on it. One way to find out is by bringing in the man with the best music in the business. Here comes Kenny. All right, Ken, I've been trying to tie up frayed nerves in the time that you have been taking to come on to the show here. We don't need to get into all that. It's time to get into the game. I haven't shared my thoughts on it at all, so we can do this fresh. Before we do that, you're looking sharp, my man. You're looking like a guy who heads on down to Vittorio Rossi on Corden Avenue and goes and asks for Frankie and the boys, and you walk into that place looking like, we've all seen how you can look before, Ken, and now we see how you're looking now. You walk in, it's a transformation, is what it is. It's what my daughter will call a glow up. If you want a glow up, you know where to go. Go see Frankie and the boys at Vittorio Rossi on Corden Avenue. Tell them Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys. Tell them you're in for a Rennie's daughter glow up. He'll know exactly what you're talking about because that's the kind of lingo they speak down there. Go see them. Go say hi for us. Tell them Kenny and Renny sent you. What did you think of the game, Ken?
Yeah, it's super interesting, Sean. I would say that the Jets played pretty well on a lot of fronts, but once again, costly errors on the first shift. Basically, the first shift of the game, Nate Schmidt got bounced off the puck by Charlie Coyle. Tyler Bertuzzi was loose behind the net. Both forwards went to the corner and the front was vacated, and Trent Frederick ripped home a shot. And just like that, the Jets found themselves down 1-0. So that's a terrible start on that front. I know a lot of folks were wondering, and yes, it was the Scheifele line that struggled the other night and was benched. That was on the ice. That was one of the situations where I think, part of the coverage breakdown was an issue for that line as a trio, but both defensemen kind of caught Schmidt knocked off the puck, and I think the other defenseman was behind the net essentially. So yeah, it's interesting. I think in a lot of ways the Jets really limited the high danger chances against. It was dead even according to Natural Stat Trick, and I think this is one of the games where we look at 8 for 8.
Not high danger. High danger was
no, it's 8-8 at 5-on-5. 8 all.
Yes. At 5-on-5.
Yeah, I mean 15-13 Jets with the power play, or including everything. So if you hold the Bruins to 8 high danger chances, that's a pretty good game for the Winnipeg
8-8,
Jets.
yeah.
So
yep.
I would say that could you argue the Jets had maybe a few more dangerous chances? I mean, if you want to look at the Nate Schmidt's off the crossbar and Mark Scheifele's off the crossbar, sure. But overall, the Jets were good, but it's one of those things where, and I just wrote about this, Sean, I mean, the Jets are in a situation where it's really challenging because their structure is improved, but the chances that they're giving up for goals have been tough. So it's one of those things where I think you could argue that did the Jets play better today than they did against Florida or Tampa, where they won those 2 games? It would be similar. I'm not sure if it's 100% accurate, but the games are similar, right? So if they played this way against Nashville, is that enough? We don't know, because the Nashville Predators are going to bring a level of desperation that the Boston Bruins simply are not bringing. We talked about this with Jim Montgomery this morning, Sean, about the malaise that they were going through. It didn't look like a malaise to me. Some people are in the chat room saying that the Bruins didn't look good. Well, okay, didn't look good because they didn't blow out the Jets, but they still played a solid structural game. They're physical. They're hard to play against. They don't give a ton of opportunities, even though, yes, the Jets had several. But that's what I say. I mean, if you're Rick Bowness, of course you're happy about a lot of the things that transpired. But I love the fact that Adam Lowry said today there are no moral victories at this time of the year, Sean. Because like a couple weeks ago when the Jets were going through losing 7 of 8, they had to kind of lean on moral victories. But now they know they need actual results. But at the same time, they have to trust the process. Instead of cheating for results, you need to stick with that process and then think that maybe some of the results will follow the way that they did on that Florida trip. So I'm fascinated by this, Sean. I appreciate your pots and pans reference. I think that was a classic. We could get a really fun air band going on Saturday afternoon at Trans Canada during the live show with the pots and pans. And I appreciate your optimism. And the Jets, as long as they take care of their own business, they should still make the playoffs. But right now, they're not winning enough games. They're not only leaning on the fact that their opponents have not played at an incredibly high level, though I do think we need to acknowledge that during this stretch of time where Nashville's gotten into the race, they're not just rattling around 500. They're playing at a 700 plus rate pace. So, and Calgary, you're right. They haven't shown that they can do it, but they also have some pretty good tools in their toolkit also. So the Jets are being tested right now is my long-winded way of saying that the Jets are being challenged. Brendan Dillon said there's no finger pointing happening and they've got each other's backs, but ultimately they need to show that down the stretch. And I don't believe the Bruins were disinterested, Cranley. I'm sorry. Sean, we were in that room today. This is not a team going through the motions. And I do agree that the top line did not get, Pasternak was not a factor, and the Lowry line did a pretty good job against Bergeron. Yes, that's true. MIA, no. I mean, this team was pissed off about losing 3 of the last 4, and they were ready to go. They played a solid game. They don't have to crank it up when they're leading 2-0 by the middle of the first period. They don't need to play with a high-risk profile. They don't need to get into a back-and-forth game, a track meet, sort of like the way the game went after the Jets took a big lead in Boston, right? When they were up 2-0, and then all of a sudden crazy bounce off the end boards to Pasternak, and then it's a wild finish. So I didn't see a team that was disinterested, Sean. Did you?
No, I didn't see a team disinterested, but I think a lot of the people in the chat room are really nailing this. Noxie absolutely nails it. He says chances are 8-8 high danger scoring chances, 8-8 when the score effect should be in our favor.
Sure.
The Jets were chasing for 59-10 of the game. This is my assessment of the game. I know we want to take a look at this and say, wow, we were right there with the Boston Bruins. And, if you take a look at all the fancy stats, we were right there. And this is a game that we're going to win more often than we lose and all that kind of stuff and the shots on the scoreboard. And I do like the fact that the Jets started getting the puck to the net and at least kind of went down swinging in this game. But what I think some people are seeing is disinterest from the Boston Bruins was a very calm, collected Bruins team that wasn't pushing for a lot of the game. Like they were sitting back and they weren't trying to make the score 3-0, 4-0, 5-0. They were very comfortable falling kind of into their shell, creating a scenario by which their goaltender could consistently see the puck, which I think he did. I mean, this is if you want to know why the Winnipeg Jets didn't score tonight, yeah, there's a little bit of, they hit posts. Well, I mean, come on, let's take a look at the posts that the Jets have, the Tampa Bay game, we're not turning around and saying Tampa was the better team in that game. They hit posts, they didn't score. That's how it happened to the Jets here tonight. But this Boston Bruins team did a really good job of shot attempts from the point. They just turn and they face that player, knock it down before it gets to the net. If it does get to the net, they do a good job of getting in between the Jets players and those pucks. They really, I thought, controlled the ice tonight. And I don't think the Jets made life hard enough for Jeremy Swayman on this night. I think that's one of the reasons you're looking at a team that didn't score here. But what I saw in the third period, what I saw in the second was a Boston Bruins team that kind of sat back, wanted to keep things ground down a little bit, played that kind of typical road period where they're not the aggressors, but they're slowing the game down. I felt like I saw that. In the third period, I saw them all over the Winnipeg Jets for the majority of the third period, didn't really allow them to play much in their end. Now, the Jets made a really, really strong push right at the end of the game, which you could expect to happen. I thought they handled that strong push fairly well, though. And for everyone who's saying, well, there was that one shot that a Boston Bruins player redirected, it was going in the net if he doesn't knock it out. Well, Connor Hellebuck knocks an empty net shot out of the air with his stick. So they're 1-for-1 with that. Jets had 2 posts, although one was, it was a great scoring chance. It was kind of grazed past the outside of the post. The Boston Bruins in the first period, I believe it was, had an empty net and missed it by hitting the post. this was by no means a game where the Jets were far, far ahead of this. And I've got all the time in the world for this argument because the Jets should be the team. The Jets are the team that's chasing. The Jets are the team that have upped their high their risk profile on this night. That should come with more chances. The fact that with a good chunk of the game, them opening up their risk profile to try and score their way into the game and just meeting the Boston Bruins in the middle by doing that, I do think says something about this game. This is not a couple pucks go the other way. It's a totally different game situation. I think the Bruins left a lot of meat on the bone of what they're capable of. I think we saw a team that knows how to win games, got up and didn't do what the Jets do, which is go in a complete, total defensive shell, rely on their goaltender, let that goaltender get shelled, and then jump back with some opportunistic scoring. I think they kept the game calm, clean, quiet for the most part, and I think they really kind of showed the Jets a lesson on if the Jets want to be one of the best teams in the league, how you shut down a victory like that.
Yeah, and that's what I meant. I mean, that's not disinterest. That's knowing how to play with the lead and not taking unnecessary risk and letting a skilled team back in the game. So to me, I thought that Boston was full value for what they did in the game. I think the Jets battled, and I agree with you. I think they did a pretty good job of trying. Here's the other part. I don't think it was a lack of will for the Jets trying to get to the net, Sean. It's that Boston is so good at box outs and keeping the front of the net clear. I think that had more to do with the fact that Swayman saw the majority of the pucks. And let's also not forget that Charlie McAvoy made a save that was absolutely absurd. Mark Scheifele or Kyle Connor robbed by Swayman. The puck is laying there, and Scheifele thinks he has an open net, and it goes off the stick of McAvoy basically into the corner. So
yeah, this is what I meant by the Bruins stole a goal with their defensive sticks. Connor Hellebuck stole a goal with his defensive stick as well.
Well, that one he also put himself into a position where he had to steal it, though. Agreed. I mean, when he came out of the net.
Don't you think Charlie McAvoy was in a position where he had to steal that goal? It was going in if he doesn't knock it away.
Oh, I agree, but Hellebuck had no need to go out of the net and basically leave an open net for Zaka, where he knocked it down with a paddle, but
I just didn't think he wanted the guy coming in on a breakaway on him, so he wanted to try and contest it. It works out. It's high risk, and it's interesting because I did say
I'm not sure Wade Flaherty would approve of the directness that Connor Hellebuck took. And you're right,
well,
he made the play. He made the play.
You could see him going in that direction tonight. Like I had said, it's been a while since Connor Hellebuck has gone out and cost his team with the puck handling. It's been a while.
Right,
and,
yes.
And the reason it's been a while is because he's been fairly conservative, but yet still active. Like I think he's done a really good job of showing confidence and getting out there. Tonight, he seemed to be getting into that mode where he was trying to make something happen for his team. And I'll be honest with you, I think it was almost a bit of a guilty conscience. I mean, hey, we don't have everyone showing up in the chat room saying, oh, well, Connor Hellebuck cost us the game like we had last game with the backup and David Riddick, where everyone was trying to hang that on David Riddick. This is a night where you could argue that the Winnipeg Jets lost this game. They definitely had the second best goaltender in this game here tonight. And if we talk about the way the Boston Bruins were able to get up and defend that lead and play based on the fact that they had the lead, well, the two goals that are scored early on Connor Hellebuck allow them to settle into the game that they're playing here. This is one of those nights where it's a knock against Connor Hellebuck being the MVP of this team, because this is a night where if you need it, they didn't need their goaltender to steal them a game here tonight. They needed their goaltender to be as good as the guy on the other side of the ice. Jeremy Swayman didn't steal this game for the Boston Bruins. His team played a very good game ahead of him. And Ken, I'll agree with you 100%. This is still mistakes being made by the Winnipeg Jets that are ending up in the back of their net. But if anyone is going to entertain the idea that David Riddick cost the Winnipeg Jets the last game against the Carolina Hurricanes, they better be open to the idea, if that's their assessment, that same assessment should land on Connor Hellebuck on this night.
Well, I mean, the chance by Frederick is a total blown, that's a shot from the slot with nobody in the middle, so I don't have an issue with that one. And in terms of the second goal, some people won't like where the shot came from. I understand that, but Trevor Kidd was up in the press box, and I asked him about it in the first intermission. Sean, part of the problem on that shot by saying, "Oh, that's a bad goal." It's a perfectly placed shot. It's over the shoulder, the collarbone essentially. It's at a place where you can't get your arm to the back, right? I think that's part of the issue there. I mean, Swayman made 35 saves, so of course he was the best goalie on the ice, but I don't see goaltending being an issue for the Jets in this game. First goal is
I'm not saying it's an issue. I'm calling out the people who come running into the chat room with the pitchforks and the torches saying that David Rittich cost them that last game. And then on a night where Connor Hellebuck allows a goal on the first goal of the game and they're down 2-0. Like, this is like, by the logic that was used in the last game, people are choosing how they want to play this. They're not applying their logic to one situation and the other. T. Konopoli here is saying 2 defensive blunders cost the Jets the goals, though. 3 defensive blunders were egregious by the Jets in the last game that ended up in the back of the net. Like, you're talking about that goal. The second goal is essentially the same goal as is scored by Brady Shea, just on the other side of the ice with a different goaltender in. Like, I'm not calling that out, and there's by no means I'm saying Connor Hellebuck lost this game for the Winnipeg Jets on this night. This is me calling out the chat room, who are clearly applying a double standard here and bending over backwards into pretzels and doing mental gymnastics and trying to explain why tonight was different from the other night. Just be honest with yourselves, okay? If you're going to make that call, be honest with yourselves. You're just going to call out David Rittich for every single goal that he allows in and excuse Connor Hellebuck for anyone. These are the exact same games in my mind. There's no difference between either.
Okay, I mean, let's move on.
Let's move on to the Lamplighter, Ken. Let's head in that direction. Trent Frederick opening the goal as the Lamplighter of tonight's game. According to Rob Somerville, what did you have?
Yeah, I mean, he's exactly right. It's the most important goal of the game. The Jets wanting to have a good start. The Bruins wanting to get themselves going after a bad loss to the Chicago Blackhawks, as we've talked about. Great forecheck by Charlie Coyle. Steals the puck. Chips it past Nate Schmidt to Tyler Bertuzzi. Bertuzzi finds a wide open Trent Frederick in front, and he bangs it home. And just like that, it's 1-0 50 seconds in. What I would say about Hellebuck, yes, he gave up 2 goals in the first 4 shots, Sean. Then he turned aside the next 18, which was an important part of the game, and he gave his team a chance, but his offense kind of let him down today. So I would just counter by saying I don't think that today's effort would have anything to do with the MVP discussion. Josh Morrissey had 31 minutes and did everything that he could. But
I'm not trying to win. This is me.
Okay, you're just poking the bear here.
Poking the bear.
Okay.
And saying the situation here. And I love this. Well, I mean, Maul seems to think that he's got a smoking gun here. That's a water pistol at best, my friend. It's you're trying to squirt there. The other one here is where everyone is saying that no goals are scored, are missing the entire point of the conversation that we've had here. The Boston Bruins get a 2-goal lead, and they're allowed to approach the game in a way where they take no risks, and they don't have to go down the other way. One of the reasons the Jets can't score goals in this game is because Boston is secure with a lead right off the bat. Yeah, hey, the Jets need to score in this game. That needs to happen. But this is more the mental gymnastics that are happening here, where people just cannot say, you know what, maybe I didn't have it 100% right on that one. This is just more of people trying to justify something that they shouldn't really be justifying. They should just be moving on and kind of realizing that, listen, the biggest issue in both these games, I guess, is probably the point I'm trying to make, Ken, is the mistakes made by the defense that end up in the back of the net. I'm not hanging on the goaltenders.
Sure.
Anyone who's trying to say here that, like, Maul seems to be thinking that I'm trying to build a case for the Vezina for Rittich, or that I think that I'm trying to suggest that Rittich is the better goaltender. Listen up, people. I'm going to use Ken's way. I never do this.
Oh, good
Wake
stuff.
up, people. Wake up in this situation. I'm not trying to say David Rittich is the better goaltender. I'm trying to say the Winnipeg Jets lose the last 2 games for the exact same reasons. It's not the goaltender in either case. It's bad defensive miscues that are ending up in the back of the net. You guys can't admit that, and you're being blind to the situation because you are so locked in on trying to blame one person for the overarching problems of the team. I can't make you listen. But whatever, we can move
Sure,
on.
one quick one here. For some folks who are saying the Jets are getting beat by backups, Jeremy Swayman, one of the best backups in the NHL, people. That was his 29th game of the year. He's rocking a 228 goals against and a 917 save percentage. That was his third shutout. So it's not like some scrub just came in and blanked the Jets here. So Swayman's a very good goalie. Linus Ullmark, for me, is still probably going to win the Vezina Trophy, and deservedly so. But the Bruins were one of the teams, Sean, the first teams that went to the 1A and 1B sort of situation with their hockey club, and Ullmark is going to play enough to win the Vezina, but this isn't some guy who comes in and starts just a handful of games here. Ullmark up to 41 games and 29 for Swayman, so this is not, again, this is a good goalie that did a nice job against the Jets, but having said that, they played well in a lot of fronts, a lot of regards. And I would even argue, too, and Brendan Dillon commented on it, Sean, the power play actually gave them some momentum in the early stages of the hockey game. Their puck movement was pretty good in the first period, but they just didn't pump one home. And this was another one of those nights, Sean, where the Jets' special teams in a game like that needs to... Sorry, I sent you the email for Scooter, Sean.
Okay, good.
The power play needed to give them a goal today, I think.
Right. I can't believe how far Maul is just missing the mark on this.
Let's not be giving him...
You're not even in the same universe. Would you be
we
okay with
appreciate Maul being
going?
in here.
Figure it out.
Yes.
Please, Maul, just figure it out. Just somewhat attempt to try and figure out what is being said in this podcast at some point here. Corey Kolchicki, you got to get a hold of me too. You're saying that you sent me this stuff. I'm seeing people in the chat room that I need to get a hold of and hand out prizes and lamplighters and stuff like that. You guys got to get ahead of me. So Corey Kolchicki, I'm talking to you, my friend. Ken, I agree with your lamplighter. Let's go with it on this night. And hey, you've got to go with something here tonight, people. Figure out your lamplighter and send it to us, because if you do, you're automatically entered to win a Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale from our friends at Trans-Canada Brewing Company. If you can't wait for Kenny and Renny to hand you your Frosty Delicious 8-pack, head on down and grab one of your own at the Trans-Canada Brewing Company. Join them in their tap room at 11290 Kenniston, where Kenny and I will be this Saturday for the next Kenny and Renny live event, which is now officially sold out. Thank you so much, everybody, for your interest and your tickets. We are so looking forward to hanging out with you on that day. It's going to be a really good one. We're going to have the run of the pizza menu when we are there. Lots of beers, lots of drinks. It's going to be a heck of a time. And like I said, it is a 1 o'clock game, so it wraps up by 4. We can hang out afterwards if you want to. If people want to hang out and tell me all about David Riddick and why he is the bizarro MVP and how he's cost the Winnipeg Jets their season.
This is for the March 25th.
I'm getting to that. Let's get to that now. Time to start selling for the following week, March 25th. This is the link if you want to start buying tickets for the 25th. I know there's a number of people who've already signed up for this. This is the way this kind of stuff goes. It takes a little bit of time for things to start moving, but then once the ball starts rolling, it's like a giant snowball just absolutely roaring downhill, because we closed out the ticket sales for the 18th like that. And I know that there's 3 or 4 people that I've talked to who kind of came last minute to say, okay, I'm going to get the tickets. And I was like, sorry, it's too late. We don't want that to happen in this situation. So anyone who's interested in going on the 25th, please come join us, because it's going to be a fun night there as well. Make sure you head to this link. You can also do this. Ken, if you can bring that link, take that link off the screen. You can also hit this right now. Scan it with your phone. Come back to this if you're watching it on YouTube. Scan it, and that will take you to the same event as well. Come join us, because I know, again, the tickets start moving, and when they move fast. It always feels like there's a lot of room, and that room disappears extremely fast. So come join us on that day. Thank you. It's going to be a ton of fun. Looking forward to it on Saturday for what has to be the biggest game of the year for the Winnipeg Jets. No doubt about it. You might as well check it out with Kenny and Renny, and you might as well do it the following week, because I have a feeling that on the 25th, there's still going to be a lot at stake for that game as well. Okay, let's move on to the Johnston Group Got You Covered play of the game, Ken.
Yeah, and in this case, it has to be the Charlie McAvoy scoop off the goal line for me. Yeah, that's the wrong header.
Oops, sorry. Yeah,
That's okay, buddy.
Go on.
It's okay.
Go on. Go on.
No, I mean, it's the play that we've discussed. I mean, just an outstanding play by McAvoy. Saves a goal that would have tied it, or would have made it a tighter game, and got the Jets kind of rolling in an evening where they probably needed to get rolling. Great crowd. There were tons of Bruins fans in the building. They were vocal. They travel well. It's interesting. Jim Montgomery came into the Bruins room after we had spoken with them, Sean, and just got a couple of minutes with him, just discussing, shooting the breeze about how it's been going. And he said he's been just absolutely flabbergasted and blown away by how strong Bruins fans have traveled all across North America here during his first season as the head coach. So that was definitely evident and available in the game. Great crowd, 14,555, and there was quite a bit of support for the Bruins this evening. And Sean, just a quick one. I was able to check out a little bit of the Avalanche, 2 periods of the Avalanche and Leafs game last night on my way home from Raleigh after my flight was delayed by a couple of hours. And interesting, I just thought that Lars Eller looked really good fitting in on that Avalanche club after the trade deadline maneuver. And also Noel Achari and Sam Lafferty, very noticeable, along with Jake McCabe and Eric Gustafson for the Leafs. So something that we've been talking a lot about the Jets additions here, and it was interesting to see how some of the other guys were fitting in on their own clubs here during the stretch run, where they had a couple of really good hockey teams going head-to-head in a game that ended off in a shootout victory for the Avalanche. Avalanche won again this evening, so they will move to 84 points now. They have 2 games in hand. For the folks wondering where the things are at, Dallas 87, Minnesota 86, Colorado 84, Jets at 79. The Calgary Flames are now up 7-2, Sean, so they will pull within 3 points this evening after what looks like a victory over the Vegas Golden Knights. So things are tightening up even further. So that'll certainly raise the stakes for the weekend, and that's great time of the year for playoff chases. So let's see how yeah, Stonewall Dave has already followed that up by saying that
I know Stonewall Dave's going to be there. I'm looking forward to seeing him. He's always a fun guy to talk to.
And a quick one, so I do think it's McAvoy for the We've Got You Covered, but also in the bigger picture, I know what we talked about after the game the other night. Obviously the benching of the top line for nearly 12 minutes was a big storyline. I have to say that, today Mark Scheifele spoke with Paul Friesen, Jeff Hamilton, and myself briefly this morning, and admitted he was pissed off about what had happened, being benched. Nobody wants to be benched. He was pretty short with his answers, but that's okay. I mean, all that matters is how Scheifele plays down the stretch. But I really was impressed by how Kyle Connor handled the situation, and his thoughts. Sean, you were there for part of that scrum as well. I thought he was very thoughtful in terms of how he had a couple days to think about it, and he knew he needed to be better. And I thought tonight he was excellent. That line as a whole, Sean, 16 shots on goal, 25 shot attempts. They were the most dangerous line the Jets had, and after a night where they had 1 total shot attempt between the 3 of them, and they were a whole lot better in the contest. So I thought that Kyle Connor, like I said, I thought he showed very well in that conversation, and that was an honorable mention in the We've Got You Covered, sponsored by the great folks, the OGs from the Johnston Group.
Yeah, let's give them a shout out to our friends, the OGs from the Johnston Group. You won't find 2 businesses with the same challenges, but you will find 30,000 businesses with Chambers Plan employee benefits, proudly administered by our friends at Johnston Group. Chambers Plan is Canada's #1 plan for employee benefits because it evolves with the way you work and live. The plan is run as a not-for-profit designed specifically to support small businesses, and its unique pooling strategy keeps rates stable so you won't have any surprises at your next renewal. Chambers Plan now comes with professional consulting on key financial, legal, and HR issues, and Teladoc telemedicine services are included with every health option. See how Chambers Plan can benefit your business by visiting chamberplan.ca. Thank you so much to the Kenny and Renny OGs. And I need to backtrack, and I'm going to throw this board up once again because I forgot to announce our Lamplighter winner from last game, and that would be Dom Zappia. Dom Zappia you are the winner of the Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter. So you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name and an email. I believe we met Dom at the first KNR live event. If I remember correctly,
Yep, he was there.
think that he was there. Anyway, Dom, you know what to do. Send me your information. Get me that email. Get me your full name, and you will get yourself a voucher for a Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at the Trans-Canada Brewing Company. Congratulations with that. And you know what? Me forgetting to do that for like the umpteenth time, which is just something that I do, reminds me that it's funny because when people call for the headband, every time they do it, I see it and I grab the headband, and my intention is to put the headband on, and then we get talking hockey and I totally forget about it. I literally plan on putting on the headband every single show. The fact of the matter is I usually just forget to do it while it's happening. So while I'm remembering, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it right now. Let's make this a Sean's Headband version of the KNR show. I gotta say, watching that cartoon gives me a little bit of long hair envy. And even I just got a haircut not that long ago, and that always looks good with it. I had a buddy who always said, when I've got short hair and it's tight on the sides like this, I always look like I have like a loaf of bread sitting on my head. And I was like, I looked at it one time and I was like, it does look like a loaf of bread. He's right. So a little bit of loaf of bread going on here tonight, but what are you going to do? That's how it goes. Scooter says, not a tight Renny, not too tight. You may start to turn Calgary red. Boy, 7-2. I'm going to tell you something here, Ken. I had no concerns. Even
I heard you had no concerns.
I had no concerns. Man, oh man, a 7-2 victory in a game like that, that's the kind of thing that could wake a team up that we all know is capable. It's like with the Jets, we're all waiting.
North End Rick would like you to wake up with your assessments.
North End Rick says, wake up, Sean. I'll tell you right now, this is the first time hearing them up 7-2 in that game is the first time that I'm thinking to myself, again, I'll say it. The reason why I'm so confident the Jets will make the playoffs is because I have absolutely zero faith in the teams that are chasing them. But boy, oh boy, I think we do all know, looking at the Calgary Flames lineup, that is a team capable of waking up and doing something. Is this what it's going to be? Like you said, Saturday becomes all that much more important, which is why we're so happy so much of you will be joining us down there. Kenny, you had talked about the response from Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor to the getting benched. I agree with you 100%. I thought Kyle Connor handled it absolutely exactly how you should have, taking accountability, looking forward to the future, saying that he's learned from his lesson. I take a look at how he was moving tonight, how that line was moving tonight. I know a lot of people had criticisms for them. I thought that line looked really, really good. And I thought most of the times when I saw them out on the ice against Patrice Bergeron's line, they looked to me like they were the better line. What did you see?
I saw a lot of hunger, Sean, is what I saw. I saw Kyle Connor looking dangerous, where he didn't look very dangerous for chunks of the last trip. Yes, he had a great breakaway attempt on Vasilevsky, and I love the fact that Kyle Connor, who often dekes the opposition goalie into a pretzel, said he was pissed off that he didn't score on that breakaway, because for him, breakaways are money for him, right? I mean, that's one of the things that you love about snipers. They don't lack confidence. So the fact that I also love the fact that Kyle said sometimes when things aren't going well, you think about trying to change things, but then at the end of the day, you realize you should really simplify and get back to what you're good at. And I think Kyle Connor did that today. He got a lot of shots off from dangerous areas. And I think this is a kind of guy, we know this about Kyle Connor. If he gets one, he could get 6 in a week, right? That's the thing about Kyle. I thought he was moving a little bit better. There have been times where his explosiveness has seemed to be lacking during this recent stretch. But this is a guy who knows how to put the puck in the net. And on a night where he had, I believe, let's double check the old score sheet here, 6 shots on net, 8 attempts. He was dangerous. Mark Scheifele, also dangerous, Sean. 6 shots on goal, 10 shot attempts. And then you have Nino Niederreiter, 4 shots on goal, 7 attempts. So to me, that line was playing much more connected. They were reading off each other well. And it's a super interesting, Sean, because when Pierre-Luc Dubois was on the ice, we spent a lot of time debating what the lines should look like. And Pierre-Luc Dubois was indeed reattached to the hip of Kyle Connor this morning during the skate before it was determined that he would not play. And for the conspiracy theorists out there, and I'm just going to put this up quickly here, Sean, it's an upper body injury now for Dubois. His previous injury was lower body. This has got nothing to do with a disgruntled player. He was on the ice this morning. He just wasn't quite good to go. Rick Bowness saying that he's hopeful he'll play on the weekend, but right now he wasn't ready to commit to Saturday's game. See how he feels after the flight, and we won't know until essentially the skate on Saturday, I guess. But this is not a disgruntled player situation. It's an injury. And what we talked about, we believe it's a concussion. I mean, the reason why a player would not travel with an upper body injury would be because he has post-concussion symptoms. Now, the Jets have not confirmed that, but it would make sense where a player getting closer to return, maybe something pops up in terms of a symptom. So let's see what happens in the coming days. But the conspiracy theorists, please take a breath. See how this plays out on the weekend. As for the other player who came back from injury today, Josh Morrissey, Sean, 31 minutes and 11 seconds, 3 shots on goal, 8 shot attempts, 3 blocked shots. So another big effort from number 44.
Crossballs, Blake, I'm writing it right now. You need to send me your information as well. You're on my list. Hey, Jericho was just in town, and all of you,
you're on the list.
You're on my list. You're on my list. Send me your info. And if you're not going to send me your info, then you at least have to choose someone that your prize will go to. So here you go, Brassballs, Blake. You need to send me that info. Just like Enor Tap, who I believe, I always thought was in Montreal, but I believe lives in Toronto, had won and had gifted that prize as well to someone else in the chat room, to Rain, I believe it was. So I love it. I love seeing the brother and sisterhood that goes on here. People making people's days, making people happy. Keep that going. Ken, speaking of making people happy, I know people love it when we talk about Sweet Lou. Why don't you talk about Sweet Lou for a little bit and let people talk about him in the chat room as well, which I know they love to do.
Yes, sir. If you have any realty needs that need to be met, whether you're buying, selling, looking what that house down the street might be worth, or looking to move to another area of town, you can contact Lou Ferlin of Royal LePage Dynamic Realty. That's 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. And his email with his listings is www.louferlin.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent supporter of the community, and excellent human being. We are very thankful for his support on this program.
Gotta love Sweet Lou. Absolutely love Sweet Lou. So I have been talking about T. Will says Sweet Lou would never lose to a backup goalie. And Russ Peters says Lamplighter is Lou. I couldn't agree more. People absolutely love Lou. As confident as I am in the Winnipeg Jets making the playoffs, I am even more confident that the ship has sailed on the Winnipeg Jets being anything other than a wild card team heading down the stretch here. If you go and take a look at the standings, the Jets are in a position where a little while ago they were hopping back and forth with Colorado. And we all love to talk about that. Hey, you know who loved talking about that was Rick Bowness, who was always like, oh, it's so tight. We wake up in third and all of a sudden we're in eighth. Well, the only reason they were ever in third was because the Colorado Avalanche had a bunch of games to play. They still have 2 games in hand on the Jets and have now opened up a 5-point lead on them. Like you'd said, a really good game against the Toronto Maple Leafs, 2 heavyweights where they come out on top. All of a sudden with 1 game in hand, they're 2 games back of the Minnesota Wild, and they are 2 games in hand on the Dallas Stars and 3 points back. This is starting to be an interesting situation, Ken, because I take a look at this and I say, okay, Seattle is 2 points up on the Jets, but they have 2 games in hand, which is similar to the situation we've seen with Colorado. Seattle may look close. They're not as close as you think. And the Edmonton Oilers have been playing good hockey as of late and have already opened up a 5-point lead on
Yeah.
the Winnipeg Jets. What this is meaning, Ken, when I take a look at this, is it's starting to look more and more to me. Now, Colorado's got to do a little bit, but starting to look a lot like the Jets are almost getting to be to a point where they're locked in with Vegas, right? And other than Vegas, the only team that I take a look at and think that probably has a chance to catch them, because if you take a look at the Dallas Stars, who are 3 points back of Vegas, but have played one more game, that's hard.
Oh, they're
to
even now.
overcome.
They're even.
Even games. Oh, yeah. Oh, because Vegas is going to lose here tonight. Still, 3 points is a lot to make up.
Yep.
But the Colorado Avalanche are going to have 2 games in hand on Vegas. If they can win those, they're just 2 points back. It's starting to look more and more to me like the Winnipeg Jets are getting to be locked in against either Vegas or Colorado. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts are the Jets are going to have a tough first-round matchup, whether it's Dallas, Minnesota, Vegas, no matter which one of those, or Colorado, right? So we know the Jets need to be playing their best hockey of the season. They are not doing that right now. They still have 13 games to get that sorted out. But right now, I saw the Colorado Avalanche play yesterday, Sean, or on Wednesday. They played a very buttoned-down style against a high-octane team. Both the Leafs and the Avalanche were very good. Very
How
good in
interesting
terms
was
of their
that?
defensive style. I thought it would be a little bit more wide open. Not a ton of 5-on-5 game, but because of all the power plays. But those were two. The reason why I want to see this, Sean, this is simple. They are 2 Stanley Cup contenders. Now, of course, the Leafs have to get past their 2004 demons, but these are 2 teams with sights on the Stanley Cup. And right now, we saw the Jets. Yes, they played pretty well against the Boston Bruins, who are the number 1 seed. But right now, I looked at both of those rosters. Even though the Jets are getting more contributions, right now the Jets they're a wild card team. There were times this year where they looked like a team that could battle for first place in the Central Division and in the conference. Right now, they are not playing like that team. And other teams around them have found another level, Sean. The Jets have not found another level than what they showed earlier on in the season. So that puts them at a disadvantage against whoever they would play in the first round. That's not to say that they can't find it and crank it up. We talk about 2018 a lot. We also talk about 2019, the collapse down the stretch. The Jets actually played pretty well against the St. Louis Blues. They got Binnington in that series, and the Blues found a way to crank it up again. But the Jets played much better in that series than they did during the last stretch where they had the bad losing streak and kind of coughed up first place in the division. So the playoffs are a totally different animal. I think it would be fantastic. Any one of those series, there's going to be storylines that are prevalent for different reasons, no matter who the Jets play, provided they hang on to that 8th spot in the Western Conference standings. It's interesting. I know we've talked about this and debated a little bit. I know you've said before that maybe the Avalanche would be more vulnerable in the first round because they might just be getting Landeskog back. They've still got some injuries on the back end. Josh Manson didn't play on Wednesday. So, Makar is just starting to settle into things for getting back from those 2 concussions. I'm not so certain that playing the Avalanche at any time is an advantage based on what we saw from them last year.
Yeah.
And what we saw from them in the head-to-head game recently against the Jets. Vegas is interesting. A lot of question marks surrounding the goaltending situation. Jonathan Quick has stabilized that position. Sounds like they're getting a little bit healthier between the pipes as well. So they're a team that's been the best team coming out of the break. So both of those teams are playing great. The Jets are finding their way. They would be tough matchups, no doubt about it. The Jets have kind of come back to the pack, and we'll see. This is such a fascinating time, Sean, because this is going to determine a whole lot of things going into the off season. So I think the Jets, Sean, you talked about this with Rick Bowness, right? When the heat gets cranked up, things can happen, right? So some people will run towards the fire and try to save a few bodies, and other folks are running the opposite direction. So I think the Jets are finding their structural game, but they need to find another level. This level is adequate. It's not the kind of level that can win 4 rounds if they get in. So I'm fascinated to see what we're going to see from the Jets. This game on Saturday, for everything you've said about Nashville playing above their skis right now, Sean, some of it's true. But here's the other problem with that argument. UC Saros has done this before when we thought they had no business getting into the playoffs. So he's also one of the best goalies in the league, just like Connor Hellebuck is. So I think it's going to be an absolutely tremendous matchup on Saturday afternoon. It's a sort of a contrast in styles. The Jets are going to have to try to stick with their process, but be a little bit better in terms of their finish against one of the best goalies in the NHL. So can they stick with that process? I think it's going to be just a fantastic game. I know you asked me about the playoff series potential. I think that the Jets need to find another level, and we'll see if they can find that level.
So this is what I'm saying is, like, there were celebrations 2 games ago after the Jets had put back-to-back wins.
Yeah, and they were better in those games.
In spite of the fact that the game against the Panthers was an extremely sloppy game, right? But even after they lost to the Hurricanes,
right,
things look good because they look good in that game. They made some mistakes. The mistakes ended up in the back of their net. Clearly, their backup goaltender entirely fell apart, blew up in a fiery crash and cost them that game. But you're taking a look at the Jets, and in their last 4 games, they're a 500 team, right? That doesn't get it cut. 500 teams don't make the playoffs. So to your point, they do need to turn this thing around. They do need to play better. I just wanted to highlight a comment because I thought this was interesting, and it brings up. I disagree with the comment, and it brings up something that I've wanted to talk about. But Beer League says, in the first half, I was sold that bonus was the answer to all our problems, but I'm beginning to realize that his systems weren't responsible for the Jets' first half season success. I couldn't disagree with this more. I mean, when we've seen the Jets look good, it was playing exactly how Rick Bowness said he wanted this team to play. Like, Rick Bowness described what he wanted this team to look like in training camp. And then you could see it. It was coming out when they were playing at their best and were looking like a dominant team that a lot of people here thought had the capability to challenge as being one of the best teams in the league. We all remember the elite comment and discussion that we had pretty early on in November, Ken. And I remember you
let's check the receipts.
Oh, let's throw some cold water on this. Great job on you in that situation, Ken. But the reason I kind of disagree with this more is because we know that when they play that game, we know what they look like. We know what the Jets look like when they were a suffocating team that was one of the best defensive teams in the league.
Number 2 behind Boston.
I would say I disagree. And you could see from what Boston did tonight why they were such a good team defensively. We saw in the beginning of the year what made the Jets a great team defensively. And the whole idea was that if they played a defense-first approach like that, the belief was their offense could get them out of that jam or get them over the top more often than not. I don't think, I don't know what Beer League sees in the, because he's not giving any evidence or and I don't even want to say evidence. He's not really letting us in on what he believes is or why he's realized that the systems weren't responsible for the Jets' first half of the season. I don't know what he thinks is responsible for the Jets' first half of the season, but I would say this. One of the reasons why the Winnipeg Jets, I believe, aren't able to succeed and catch fire and move on is because they still never get to looking like what they looked like at the beginning of the season, which was a very definitive and described style of hockey that Rick Bowness wanted them playing. And I think that's the difficult part of this, right? Is if you're watching them play, even when they do play well, and Rick will say, well, I thought that they played well, it's never quite the blueprint. And it's never, I mean, where are the days of all 4 lines are supposed to look alike? That's long gone. That doesn't exist anymore. I don't know if you want to weigh in on this comment, Ken.
Oh, yeah, for sure I do. For sure. The Jets are not aggressive the way they were at the start of the year. And when they are, things are happening. Even today, the Dylan DeMello interference penalty, that's how they played at the start of the year in the first 20-game block, right? You pressure at the blue lines because you have the F3 is high and you're not worried about a 2-on-1 going the other direction because the forward is covered off there. The Jets are not playing with the same kind of pace. We know that, right? It's a fact. They're not playing a fast game. I would say today, one of the things that Adam Lowry talked about after the game, and one of the reasons we enjoy talking to him about him, because he can break down the game so well. The Jets actually got a few things going on their forecheck against a very good Boston team. But on the nights where they haven't won, there have been tons of nights where they haven't generated anything on the forecheck. I think specifically the game against the LA, maybe against LA a while back, but the Jets are not playing the same style. I mean, they're trying to, but they're not executing to the same degree they were early on in the year, Sean. And whether that's because other teams have figured out a way to defend against them or shut down certain things, I mean, that remains to be seen, and we'll figure that out in the next 13 games here. But Connor Hellebuyck was a huge reason the Jets got off to a great start. He played great at the beginning. We were talking Vezina front runner for a long time. I think right now Allmark has passed Hellebuyck. I think there's other goalies like Saros and Sorokin that are in that discussions as well, that have done things that have been very impressive for their teams also. That's not to diminish what Connor Hellebuyck is doing, not at all. But there are other teams whose collective game has improved, and the Jets have not improved on their collective game. They peaked early, and can they find a way to crank that up again? That's up to them to show. It's not to say that they can't do it, but they haven't done it for a long block of time. And I would disagree with that last comment that went up there. The system is fine, but it's the commitment to the system over an 82-game stretch, which is incredibly challenging. That's why not a lot of teams can do it. I understand where the premise is. The premise is the Jets are a skilled team. They can't play a button-down style. Well, at the beginning of the year, when the commitment level is there, they were playing a button-down style, and the goals were coming a little more freely. And some of that, as we like to say, was snake charmer offense. But a lot of it was predicated in sound defensive play. And yes, the shots were still high. They reduced the number of high danger chances because they had shots allowed from predictable areas, which allowed Hellebuyck to have great success. Right now, the breakdowns are happening at just absolutely horrendous places, and it's leading to backdoor tap-ins and wide open chances in the slot that are point-blank opportunities. So the Jets need to figure out a way to find that way. And if they don't find that way, then, Sean, I think we've talked about this a lot, and we will talk about it more. If the Jets can't find a way to do that, we will soon be talking about changing the complexion of the roster. Because right?
Agreed, 100%. Yeah, we're going to get into that. I want to. One of the things I love about this show is A, we can tackle comments made by people, but B, we can allow them to get back in this. And I do think that Remus nailed this. He said he thought that Beer League was saying that it was Hellebuyck earlier in the season, and he chimes in and says, A, I don't believe the systems were responsible because the Jets had success before they could really practice or master the systems. I disagree with this comment. One of the reasons that I think the Jets looked elite, one of the things that I've seen, and sorry, I should say this is one of my theories. One of the things I think the reasons that the Jets looked so good at the beginning of the year is because they got to their system before most teams in the league did. And so that there are receipts. I know for a fact that there are shows where I said that I thought what made the Jets great is that, and I'll use a specific game as an example. I think that you will see this comment in this game if you went back and listened to it. But the first time they beat the Tampa Bay Lightning, I had seen a Winnipeg Jets team that was more committed to and at their system and playing their system at high speed than other teams were coming in. It was bringing them success. I believe I had also wondered out loud in that show what would happen and where the Jets would stand in the league when other teams started getting to their systems and meeting them there. I do wonder if that has something to do with the collapse that we've seen from the Winnipeg Jets. Beer League also says, in the first half, I was sold that bonus was the answer to all our problems, but he's beginning to realize that his systems weren't responsible. Oh, sorry. There was another comment that I lost it. He had a really good one. Essentially what he was saying, and Remus covered it here, and so did Beer League. He gave like a better explanation of what he was saying. But I think Beer League thinks that a lot of the early success of the season was Connor Hellebuyck bailing them out. And Beer League is 100% right with this. And I had said this at the beginning. I can point to specific games. I think he did it and earned a point against the Vegas Golden Knights. I thought that he goalied the Arizona Coyotes in the very first game that was down in Mullet Arena. The game before that was against the LA Kings. He most definitely goalied the LA Kings in that game. At the time, Rick Bowness would come out quite often and he would point out that this was nothing to celebrate, but there were enough games there where they celebrated the system that they were at that I truly believe that Rick Bowness's system works. I think you can maybe argue that the Jets players don't necessarily fit that system, only that they don't continue to play that. Now, if they don't fit it, the question becomes, are they not capable of playing it? I think they are. Or are they committed enough to stick to it? I think that is the answer for this team. The reason at this stage that we don't see the Rick Bowness system rolled out over and over and over again, and I'll come down to it, and I've said this before, the Winnipeg Jets at the heart of it love snake charmer offense. They love scoring from distance. They love diving in and out of plays. They don't love grinding and getting to the front of the net and slamming the puck in. That is not what the most offensive players on this team like doing. You could see it from Blake Wheeler tonight. Blake Wheeler was trying to slice and dice his opponent from distance, and he had some success at it tonight. Enough success that his coach put him on the top line to try and see if he could get something out of it at the end of the second period. I just think that the idea that this team could lock down for an entire system and create that identity and stick with that identity the way the Bruins clearly have done throughout this system. If people want to argue that the reason this system doesn't work is because those players are unwilling to lock down to that system, I think that's a different argument than can they play the system. I believe they can play the system, but if you're going to ask me whether or not they are willing to commit to it 100% for an entire season, that, to me, is the very heart of the argument of what's gone wrong with this Jets season as we've gone down the stretch here. Ken, if you have anything to say, now's the time to say it.
Nope, good to be home. We'll enjoy a weekend full of games. For the folks joining us on Saturday, we're excited to be with you once again. And for the folks who would like to be at the last live Kenny and Renny show of the season, join us on March 25th.
Yeah, we're going to do that. But before we do that, it's time to throw a spotlight on the comments and choose a standout for the Home Field Dig Deeper Award. And I'm going to go to someone who I'm sure probably thought they would never win an award because I clash with this person quite often. But hey, I love giving things to people I clash with because I love it when they step up and dig deeper. And today, NBHA Ball Hockey dug deeper, saying the Bruins looked as if they were not giving their all tonight and still won 3-0. A team with first place locked up and waiting for the playoffs to start. The Wings Hawks beat them. Why can't we? Wait, hold on a sec. Was this a comment that I won? This was not. I'm sorry. I'm taking it away from NBA ball hockey and I'm giving it to Noxie. Who said
card late is a card play. Oh, hang on a second here.
Yeah, but I was arguing with this.
No.
I argued with this comment. I argued with it earlier in the show, and you did too. We did not think that this was a situation in which. Do I have to do it?
I think you should.
Okay, then I'm going to hand out two NBHA ball hockey. You got lucky, but you're going to get a Dig Deeper award for it. But I'm also going to hand it out to Noxie, who was the person that I had set aside 8-8 when it comes to high danger scoring chances. When the score effect should be in our favor, the Jets were chasing for 59.10 in the game. Noxie nailed it here. This was a game that I thought the Boston Bruins, after scoring, never really looked in danger of losing their grip on this game. They did not look panicked at any point in the game. Their goaltender looked comfortable the entire game. Noxie nailed this. NBHA is getting in there too. So NBHA ball hockey and Noxie, you both need to get a hold of me. Direct message me with your full names. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your emails and I will send you each your voucher for your Dig Deeper Kenny and Renny / Homefield Trunk Shovels. Thank you to the both of you for your winning comments. And just like Homefield is always going to dig deeper to find the best marketing solution for your company. Find out how at myhomefield.ca. Ken, you have something to say?
Yeah, you bet. For the folks, since we have their attention, my Jets mailbag is going to be open, I think, through the weekend. Probably going to run on Wednesday. That will leave the Jets with 10 games to go. So if you have Jets thoughts on your mind, since the trade deadline is in the rear view mirror, and there will be 13 games to go going into this weekend's activity with the Nashville Predators and St. Louis Blues, you can email me or send me a DM with your Jets question, and we'll do our best to get it into the mailbag. We know you ask questions every day in the chat room, and keep them coming. There's still room, plenty of room, and I look forward to hearing from you guys and gals.
Okay. All right. Let's get ready to shut this down. Before we do it, I'm just going to throw this up one last time. So if people are looking for tickets for March 25th, this is what you scan, ladies and gentlemen. Those tickets will be in hot demand, so please hop on them right away. And if you need any help getting hooked up with those tickets, or if you have any questions, once again, direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. I will help you through the ticket buying process, because I know for some people it has been extremely easy. For some people, they've had a little bit of a challenge with it. We want to make sure that we're there to celebrate with all of you on both these dates. Can't wait to see everybody on Saturday. It's going to be a ton of fun. We will see you. Party starts at 12 o'clock, 1 hour before the game. Food served at 1 o'clock when the game is hitting. And like I said, it's an all-night thing, so we can stay up in the room. We can go down into the larger space afterwards. It's going to be a ton of fun. We can't wait to see you all there. Ken, great job. Chat room, great job here tonight. I will hit that button, and I will end this show by saying what I always do say. If you appreciate the conversations happening in these spaces, please appreciate our sponsors who fight to keep it happening in these spaces. For us, that's Vittorio Rossi, the TransCanada Brewing Company, the Johnston Group, Lou Ferlin, and of course, Home Field, who always has us digging deeper. Thank you so much to all of them. We will see you, and we cannot wait to see you down at the TransCanada Brewing Company starting at 12 o'clock on Saturday, heading into the biggest game of the year for the Winnipeg Jets as they take on the Nashville Predators in a Saturday matinee. Bye-bye, everybody.
The Kenny and Renny Show is brought to you by Home Field, Cambrian Credit Union, Lou Ferlin, TransCanada Brewing, Vittorio Rossi, and Johnston Group.